the only Nobel Prize to indigenously come from India is Sri V. Raman. So that day does play a very significant role, and we celebrate the day as the National Science Day. Now I would like to call upon Professor K. S. Vishwanathan, Department Head of Chemical Sciences, to open this event.
This day, February 28, 1928, that Raman first announced this discovery of the effect that he just observed. And 2 years later, of course, he got the Nobel Prize for the discovery, which is essentially a phenomenon involving light scattering. And today, of course, Raman effect is used in a big way by chemists, physicists, and biologists, particularly to understand various aspects of structure and reactivity in molecules. His contribution to science is wonderful. Apart from the discovery of the Raman effect, you see that he was also the director of the Ministry of Science for a while, and therefore gave directions to Indian science in a big way. And therefore it's quite apt that we recognize the services of Raman. What I will essentially not do is to give you a long talk, make it short so that you can go ahead. I don't think you came here to listen to me, you came here to enjoy science. Therefore I will cut it short, but before that, let me just say a few things. Don't consider science as being something that's done in a laboratory. It's something that's always around, and you have to develop this attitude of inquisitiveness and a sort of a genuine intuition into looking at things. You don't get conclusions by looking at the results of the lab. You get conclusions very often by simply feeling that this is what it must be, and you've got to train yourself to doing that. Very often nature around us is giving us clues to various problems in science. We just wait to see, and it's only the very alert minds that catch it.
Repeating it again, is the Nobel Prize an unachievable dream for scientists in India?
Who actually want to discover something, and they are curious to know what's happening around them. They actually do not get in fame, and also not and they're not recognized in India and in countries like India. Although we have a very great, huge amount of talent in India.
You might have listened in the net also that the scientists are creating such computers that which we can control through our mind, not with the mouse or keyboard. So if we go on increasing the technology, the stage will come that we are working on the road and they are sitting on our
So the negative trait, we have to talk about the positive things too. If they are robots and they are with us in the future, we will be able to do many things which we are not able to do these days.
So when you see your friend throwing something, you can just tell him as some of it's not going to do it.
But how will it take revolutionary methods to conserve our Earth?
Yeah, revolutionary methods are a bit tough to take.
So yeah, like we can, if there is some destruction, then a lot of people would die, which would cause destruction also on a very high scale, which obviously no one wants. So that's the thing, nuclear plant cannot be bought more effectively in India.
Develop discussion. The topic for the finals is with genetically modified, what is called GM, the genetically modified crops bring about the next green revolution in India.
First of all, green revolution was aimed to increase food crops production in India. Likewise, according to me, genetically modified crops would be an excellent way to enhance crop yield, because it would lead to better cropping methods and storage, and which would in turn lead to it could be the second green revolution, because it's ultimately being aimed at the increase of crop production in India.
I would like to tell that it is very beneficial if GM crops are introduced. For example, the BT cotton that is being used at present is in very high demand. It not only increases the yield but also reduces the cost of the farmers that is being invested in the fields.
Insecticides, there would be less eutrophication, in turn which would help the pond life. And coming back to us, we humans, not only birds, the presence of pesticides at the trophic level would also decrease, which in turn would help us. And if we know what are the benefits of these crops to us, we would in turn, like she said, the government which would be elected through export also all the money.
Let's look at more development. We are not looking for stagnant development, but more development. And also for GM green revolution to be the next successful one, we need to spread awareness, which is very important. If the people will not know that what is GM and what is crops and how can we improve it, we cannot be like in a country with such a great population.
Based nations, not in agro-based nations. Development is most in the industrial-based nations. Our GDP is not going to jump to 16% by using the GM crops. As far as our economy is considered, although it will increase, but it is not going to be at par to America, which is an industrial-based nation. Second thing is, accordance with Darwin's theory and natural selection, it is the nature that decides which genes will continue and which will not. That's why some genetically modified crops were rejected earlier.
Shift off its coat, it will look like a cat. Serious or joking?
Serious.
Joking. A human being can be restored in liquid nitrogen. Serious or joking?
Joking.
Correct. The deepest and the largest freshwater lake on the planet is? The highest peak entirely to lie in India is?
K2.
Wrong. Nanda Devi. The recently discovered God particle is? Correct. The Carnot cycle is a kind of an automobile. Serious or joking? Joking. Philosophy and Naturalist Principia Mathematica was Dash's first book. Sir Isaac Newton. Capsaicin is a chemical compound found in chilies or mangoes. In 21st century, Johannesburg only hot or cool? Hot. Most members of this family wearing the same surname as mathematicians, the most famous being the Dash trials and the Dash effect.
Ideally, at the end of this Science Day program, you need scientists who are actually working scientists in their field. We don't have answers to all your questions, but we want to know what are the questions in the minds of young generation at this stage of time. And you raise a question, and maybe some of you will answer, maybe some of us will answer.
That ozone layer is getting depleted, so can't we artificially make it and transport it to the atmosphere, stratosphere?
Theoretically, if you would like to do what you suggested, that is actually not possible. For the simple reason that to store ozone is a very reactive molecule, so you cannot make it and store it in a container and then put it on a rocket and then put it there. That's one part of it. Second, so it's not stable when you produce it, right? You can't store it. Second part is, how will you disperse it in the entire global stratosphere? That's a very big volume. So you would have to it's simply not possible to deal with that quantity that would be needed, and you would have to think of a way of how to ensure that distribution evenly.
There's an Ankur Tiwari formula which was quite famous, like it is capable of dividing a number by 0.
You have to understand the meaning of division first of all before understanding the meaning of division by 0. Okay? That's very important. So you can't divide by 0. That's one thing. The reason is for that you have to understand more basic things. For example, what is the notion of number for you? What is the meaning of a real number for you? So if you understand that notion, what is that, you will be able to appreciate and understand that division by 0 doesn't make sense in the real numbers and the real numbers which we know. In that, division by 0 does not make sense at all. And that you can understand only when you know certain sequences of rational numbers. For example, you will just say what is called convergence. You just mention convergence of sequence of numbers. So that's a big advanced topic, and that is studied in a topic called analysis. So analysis is the theory of calculus or the theory of real numbers. So once you understand that, only then you will be able to understand that division by 0 is non-existent in mathematics.
How would we determine whether it is animals or birds or a human being, etc.?
Only way you can get to know whether it is an animal or a human or something else is by comparing it with reference to something that is already known. So the way I would do this experiment is, suppose I had a big project where I wanted to see what does the DNA of birds in general look like. So I would collect blood from many birds or some DNA sample from many birds, look at it, and try and see if there is a general pattern in the DNA of birds. So now when I go and get some unknown DNA sample, I always compare it with the birds and say, okay, does it have enough similarities to say it is the bird, or it is not? So it's something like, what you do in chemistry, you first construct a standard curve and then you look at your unknowns, right? Similarly, you first construct that is something that is standard and then you compare your unknowns. That's the only way.
That the magnetic properties in the core of Earth are because of the ferrous or other molten minerals within it. But according to physics, the ferrous loses its magnetic properties at higher temperatures. So what do you have to answer about that?
Very good question you have asked. The magnetism comes, one is because of some of the atoms are tiny magnets like ferrous, and you put them together and when you go to low temperature it becomes a magnet. But see, you also have magnets like electromagnets, where there are currents. If you take a coil and have current flowing through it, that can give rise to a magnet. So the magnet of Earth, inside the Earth, is more like that kind of a magnet, where there are very large currents inside the Earth. Not that tiny ferrous magnets are aligning to give you a large magnet. So it's the other kind of electromagnet kind of magnet in there.
So how do you bend time?
Einstein's theory of relativity, the space-time itself has a dynamical structure, and normally what we assume, there is an assumption that if I have a meter rod, no matter where I take it, a 1 meter rod will measure 1 meter. Okay? So Einstein's theory says that is not quite correct. A 1 meter rod will not have the same real proper length at every place. Similarly, 1 second elapsing according to your clock may have different meaning for different observers and at different locations. For example, there is a difference in the lapse of 1 second on the surface of Earth and lapse of 1 second on a satellite which is going around the Earth. And the difference is caused by a difference in the strength of gravitational field. Okay. Now, Earth's gravitational field, even though it sort of stabilizes us, it prevents us from toppling over or flying off, is comparatively very weak. If you consider situations where the gravitational field can be very strong, and thankfully such things are not present on Earth, but astrophysical sources can be seen where the gravitational field is very strong. So over there, this distortion of space-time becomes very strong, and maybe Stephen Hawking was trying to describe that distortion in terms of bending. So it's not that time will bend like this. Okay. Time will continue to move in one manner.
Thanks to all the teachers who are here. Thanks for bringing your students. Thanks for participating. Again, you are welcome here anytime you want to come back. We can have thanks to all the school principals, vice principals, all the management who send their students here. Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists who participated in the open session today. Thanks to all the colleagues in IISER Mohali who have helped in various ways. But the biggest thanks goes to all the IISER Mohali students, all the volunteers who have worked for a really long time to hold all these programs, all the competitions and all the demonstrations. So thanks to all of you. Thank you.